makes this class different than the many other entrepreneurship classes across the country is that students have to actually implement some aspect of their business and gauge the market, but actually implement it. During this past semester, today's the final day of the semester for them. This is like the equivalent of their final exam. And to gauge some market reaction, market validation, and figure out how they would pivot to continue their venture. So, to my knowledge, I've only heard about 3 other schools that they actually go in and launch something over the course of the semester. Or some schools actually you have to sign up for 2 semesters and do it over the course of a year. So it's been getting some good word around the school. The university actually just at the faculty council meeting on Friday voted to make it a full course, not just at the undergraduate level, but at the graduate level, and also to introduce an MS in entrepreneurship as opposed to an MBA. We'll still have the MBA, but a 1-year Master of Science degree, in which this course will be the capstone course. And just to briefly introduce, because we don't have that many guests, Dr. Casey Frid is a professor at Pace in entrepreneurship, who did his PhD in entrepreneurship at Clemson and who wrote the program for the MS. So to briefly, again for the judges, there's 8 students, 7 undergraduates, 2 of which are working in teams, and 1 graduate student who's doing the course as what we call a tutorial, but following the same basic curriculum. And I wanted to introduce the panelists. I was going to do that a little different, but also to stall for a little bit of time for Ed to come. So we're really fortunate, and I'd like to thank all 4 panelists. But I'll briefly introduce them, maybe ask them to introduce themselves here. I was going to do that at the end when they give some feedback, but basically the way it'll go is the teams, the 8 teams will present. There are going to be about 15-minute presentations. They're going to cover 3 main areas. First is kind of an overview or a pitch of their business itself. And then the second thing is going to be how they actually implemented it in the market. And the third is their market validation, what the market told them, and how they would pivot going forward. So they're going to cover those 3 key areas. There's not like scoring for a winner. The only thing is, in order for them to pass the class, the majority of the panelists have to grade their presentation as satisfactory. If it's unsatisfactory, if 3 of the people say it's unsatisfactory, they fail. But I don't think that's going to be the case here. So you have an important role. And then at the end, instead of giving feedback after each question, you're welcome to ask questions after each presentation. But didn't want to give feedback afterwards, because then all the 7 to follow feel like on the fly they may try to make up for the feedback that was given to the ones that went before them. So welcome to ask questions, but at the end we'll give some general feedback. So as I said, I'll ask the panelists to introduce themselves, but just quickly, Charles Ryan is a senior vice president at HSBC in charge of lending on the East Coast, is a double PACE alum, and has really helped out. The very first pitch contest was thanks to Charles's help when he worked at JP Morgan Chase, as the head of small business lending in Manhattan. Robert Fuhrer came down from Westchester. He's spoken to my class in Pleasantville. Very interesting entrepreneur, lifelong entrepreneur, did a lot of work in Japan in the toy industry, but also, if you know the Ken puzzles, was responsible for bringing them in. I think Charles will add a lot to the feedback, because most of you, if you get funding, it'll be from small business loans, after friends and family, so could talk a little bit about what they look at in terms of small business lending. Bob, all of when he talked about what's needed for packaging and marketing and product design and testing and getting it out in the market, doing deals, negotiating, very interesting stuff. And SOMAC is what I like to call a good friend of PACE's entrepreneurship program. I know SOMAC through the MIT Enterprise Forum. We both serve on the board. SOMAC did his undergraduate degree at MIT and MBA from Columbia Business School, and has worked in the startup world and venture world in New York City for a number of years, and is, has served with the pitch contest. You may know we had Sal Khan speak. That was thanks to SOMAC's introduction. Has served at the opening of the lab. SOMAC spoke at the business plan competition. He was a guest speaker in classes, and really appreciate everyone coming in. And again, when Ed comes in, he'll speak as well. So just to again slightly slow, but I know they're putting everyone on this question. I don't know if we should start the presentations, or if there's, any other, I don't know that there's any other need for introduction. So I guess what we'll do is we'll start the presentations, and when Ed comes in, he'll be able to provide feedback from the ones that he saw.
We'll just tell them what to say.
Okay. All right. Good. So let's, we have a volunteer, Gary, with you? Okay. So again, the panelists are free after the presentation. Feel free to ask questions. The 15-minute isn't a strict time to help them gauge their